Tennessee and they keep saying it, and it's just like, what?
You don't realize until like someone you're really close with has cancer, and then you realize how much they just don't know.
How
Like they really
much
don't
they,
know, and they wait for
yeah,
symptoms. Like waited
yeah,
for him to have neurological symptoms before they did MRI scans to check his brain. Like they're not proactive about cancer; they're reactive, and that's so weird
yeah.
in this
Hey,
day and age.
Kojo,
But
the chat, I don't want to use this chat on the side because it's going to all the streams. Okay, so I am live right now, but it
no, you're good.
says Twitch says the title is invalid. Wow, because you can't even have misogyny in the title.
Oh, whoa.
Twitch is
Oh,
Nuh-uh.
wild. Like I couldn't even have white supremacy as like in the title when I tried to set it
what?
up. Because on January 6th, they're like, oh, we're cracking down on the white
Oh, that was
supremacists.
right. But how you gonna
Mute
do
yourself,
both?
Kojo. Well,
What?
that's actually you know, something I was thinking about because I always come down harder on the left when it comes to censorship.
Well,
And
even when I get shit taken down when it's a screenshot of Proud Boys doing the 3% like this, my shit getting down because they say like I'm spreading hate speech or that I'm a terrorist when I'm literally like educating people on what that shit is. And then every time, usually if I like whatever um whatever the word is, if I'm like, no, actually, can you review that? They go back and they're like, oh, you're right. But every time they'll just take it down. So I'm just like, you're to your point, they're just censoring. They censor it. And if you say men is trash, you can't say men are trash anywhere.
yeah,
That
I
gets taken
said,
down automatically.
which brings us to our present moment.
Oh, it brings us to
Atlanta and this trash incel white supremacist that just murdered all of these Asian massage workers and 2 clients.
I know.
Unbelievable. Yeah, really horrendous. And then
Horrendous.
the sheriff from Cherokee County saying, well, he had a bad day. He was really
He
sexually
had a
frustrated.
bad day.
Right.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Oh, let's give every white man an excuse to spread hate and kill.
Yeah.
Let's give
And,
them an excuse why they're a terrorist. Let's put in their profile that he was having a bad day, but that goes back to when Jeremy Christian did what he did, and the psychiatrist said that black woman had him agitated the night before, and he was upset because his mom and dad put him out the house with his comic books and he didn't have anywhere to stay.
right. He was also having a bad day.
This is what we mean when we say, "Oh, but he was drinking alcohol and on marijuana, everything that you can think of,
Right.
everything that you can think of
To
for an
empathize with
excuse for
this
this man
murderer.
to spew hate and to empathize with this white supremacist murderer,
Right.
serial killer,
Right.
Yeah,
and
like
uphold
let's not
him
go
in
back
everything
and
he does."
let's not go back and figure out why he was obsessed with having control over Asian women and whatever that stereotype is in itself. Like, let's not unpack what white cis males think why they either fetish over Asian women or whatever it is. I don't have all my
Well, he
buzzwords
sounds
on
like
me
a
right now.
total incel, slash religious zealot, I guess. Like his father was some
Oh, to
kind of
say like something
preacher.
about him being Christian. I don't know what him being Christian has to do with any of it, but like just this weird idea that okay, white Christian men think that it's okay for them to have power over women, and then why there is this fetish specifically with Asian women. And you even look at you know mail order brides, for example, and how many like how long is that even think about that growing up. I just thought about that just now saying it. Like it was a joke, right? Growing up, it was like an okay thing to joke about men and how they ordered wives from Asia, different parts of Asia. Like, what the fuck? And then for me to not even unpack that and think, like, what's this stereotype? Why do white men feel like they need to like purchase an Asian woman, like because what white women or now American women or feminist women are too feminist or too powerful or whatever. Like I've never unpacked the misogyny and the racism behind that, and I probably just even said a bunch of racist shit on accident while realizing the stuff that was just dumped in my head and I accepted for as normal growing up. Like what the
Right. Well,
fuck?
you can't separate the misogyny from the white supremacy
The racism.
and
True,
the
true, true.
and the oppression. You know, this is femicide. He targeted
Mhm.
these women, and who knows why? Like now, I'm forced to think about what was going through his head. But he targeted people that are clearly easily devalued. If the sheriff could say something like this, now there's this kind of sex worker gaze on the situation. Like we're wondering if he had ever gone to these parlors. Perhaps he tried to assault them and was kicked out of these places. I'm
Or he did
somebody that
something, yeah, he crossed the line and he got kicked out, or they finally they did defend themselves and
which
they said
happens
no.
every day in these places,
Did you
please.
see
Like,
that the
yeah,
woman, that elderly woman that stuck up for herself, that she had two black eyes, but she beat the shit out of her aggressor just yesterday? The same thing. Some white guy tried to beat the shit out of this elderly Asian woman, and
in
I
San
don't know her
Francisco.
nationality, in San Francisco.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Yes.
Like that's like so she fought back and it's a big deal, but like imagine how many women yell and scream and fight back all the time and either it's not heard about or they end up, you know, dying or being
Right.
murdered like these women. But it's just like it's so frustrating, just like cat calls, just I don't know, I keep just thinking of all the things, like the first time I got
Yeah,
whistled at when the Me Too movement started, and then thinking about as a white woman how I still have white privilege in that, and what it's like for Asian women and what it's like for black women, and indigenous women. You know, indigenous women are disappeared more than any other percent per capita than any other group of people. People don't even
right,
talk about indigenous women. People don't talk about land back and that we are on stolen land, and the people that who were here first are the most per capita violence against indigenous women is like number one, and then I think it's black women or whatever, and it goes on from there. To think about that these things aren't spoken about, that Mexican women disappear all the time in Jalisco, and it's just not talked about as much as, you know, it hits the news once or twice. And like I think that it's another really good reminder that while Black Lives Matter movement is really at the forefront right now, that if we can keep those other oppressed groups, trans women, Asian women, indigenous women included, that really it's black and brown people
well,
and
it's all
women.
connected, and it all
Yeah,
has to do with white supremacy, where this person even thought that he had the right to do that.
true.
Exactly.
But like it's the
Exactly.
crusades, and then to even have this idea creeping in like he's eradicating these pornographic spaces. Fuck you.
Right.
And
It's
we're in
just a
Georgia.
simple.
I mean, the
Come
South. Come
on. The
on.
South.
You're from Tennessee, Demetria. Like I've
Right.
been to Georgia. I've been to Atlanta and
Me
looking
too.
around like, because as soon as you get just like pretty much everywhere else, but it's weird in Georgia. There's all these weird suburbs. So one suburb will be cool, and then the next suburb will be like Stone Mountain, like KKK, Confederate flag town. So come
But it's
on.
like that. It's like that down south, but they still feel like they're privileged. And just like he felt like he was privileged to go and express this hate and say, okay, this is my right because down south, that good old boy shit is still going on.
Right. Clearly with the sheriff, oh, he's having a
Look at
bad
what
day.
he's having. There's always an excuse
Right.
for a white person to be angry and to spew hate, and we're supposed to have this white supremacist attitude of let's forgive this white man because he's going through.
Right.
Fuck you.
Or it's not a hate crime because he
Right.
was
Or they're
sexually
not
frustrated.
terrorists. Or they're
Oh
not
yeah,
Right.
it's
Or
not a
they're
hate
not
terrorists.
crime because he's
terrorists.
How?
agitated. Yeah,
Right.
that's so
Or
true.
it's
How?
not an act of terrorism. He went to
Thank
3
you.
different Asian
3
How's that not
different
massage
targeted?
places. And
parlors.
then it's not premeditated. I mean, they have all these shit put in play to demean the real reason why he did what he did. So they can just throw. See, they use word games. They try to use
Hmm.
word play so that it seems like it wasn't so bad when we all know that was a white supremacist terrorist he was a serial killer, point blank, all of those
Yeah.
things, point blank. And they don't want to put all those things together because they don't want to admit that they created this monster, just like
Right.
Jeremy Christian.
I
They
think it's
created
that
these
part.
monsters. They
White
create them,
supremacy. Yeah.
and then they put them in our communities, and we're supposed to deal with this shit.
Yeah.
How you
I
gonna
read
deal
something
with
out
the
of
man
Boston.
like that? How you
Mhm.
gonna deal with the man like that? How? Look how many bullets he had. Come on.
Right.
Are you
Well, that's
serious?
certainly not surprising, right? Like he just had his car to himself, his Hyundai SUV thing,
Right. And it's
GPSing around to whatever he was doing, and that's intentional to have it like in Atlanta because it's
right.
like the freest, most diverse place in that whole
That
garbage
part.
state.
And you already
You
know
know,
what's
that's the
going
only
on
place.
about suppression. That's all they trying to do is suppress. Look at what they did, and they just flipped Georgia.
Right.
So
Exactly.
now you're trying to make a statement in Georgia. You just killed 8 women,
Right.
Asian women. Are you serious? It's always about
Yeah.
retaliation. It's always they're trying to make a point. What point are you trying to make when we see what y'all are doing? We know what y'all are doing. It's
Yeah.
so predictable because white men feel like they have a right to express how they feel however they want. They're going to get away with it because the justice system hold them up. And then if they don't get away with it, they're going to find a way to get away with it.
Right, on appeal.
On appeal. Look at
Jeremy
Jeremy
Christian.
Christian.
I
He
did.
has an
Yeah.
appeal already. It's black and brown people been in jail their whole lives, still can't get an appeal, but he
Right.
has one
Yeah.
already, and he's hollering self-defense.
Right. Yeah, as if he wasn't targeting black women. As if that
he
wasn't like the
wasn't.
machination in his mind. Like this, I did write down his name somewhere. Robert Aaron Long, 21. He was charged on Wednesday with 8 counts of murder and 1 count of aggravated assault. 4 of the murder counts and the assault charge stem from the first shooting in Cherokee County, and the other 4 murder counts relate to the shootings at 2 spas in the city of Atlanta less than an hour later.
And they had a chance. They had a chance, just like with Jeremy Christian. They had a chance to stop him.
Oh, white guy driving around. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know all the details, but I was just disgusted that somehow we are not looking at these murders as hate crimes because he was sexually frustrated and Christian. And you know the South, Demetria, like
and it's
this
all
is
done
Christianity.
in hate. Right. And then they say, in God's name, look at our country. Our country. Yeah. Look at our country.
You just posted a really disturbing details of this lynching, in the early 1900s in Mississippi, where like everyone in the town was like cutting off pieces of the black couple that they were lynching and stuff.
Yep.
They did that in Christianity's name as well.
And but see, that's what it's all done under, to control. You're just like, okay, so you're saying that in order for you to do this, in order for me to do this, that it's in God's name. Look at our country. They said, look, in God's name, you're supposed to in the country and God, you're supposed to serve. But then you're killing people. You're killing people. So how are you going to rationalize that you're telling me I'm killing people and I'm doing it for God in our country? How is that possible? And then you said, and then when you get through using me, you say, I'm finished using you. So therefore we're good. Now you go on about your way. But what about my conscience? What about what about my conscience, about all the people that you said I killed in God, in your name, but you have left me out in the cold? Like, when you get through serving the United States, what do? They put you in they don't take care of you. You can't even get benefits.
Yeah.
So
No, I've been thinking about that too.
how they
you
gonna
know,
take care of you?
right?
And
The
then they
whole
tell you you're doing it in God's name. And it's like, how can you even rationalize that you're telling me I'm doing it in God's name, and I'm having nightmares about killing people and taking people's lives. I'm walking around with PTSD. You're not helping me with any medical things that I need, any kind of financial help. All of this. This is what our country do to us. And due to the people that say, I want to fight for our country. And they come back not understanding, how are you telling me that I'm killing in the name of the country and God? How are you throwing
right,
God into it? How?
right. Like, how did God creep into this situation to
How?
where, like, right, like all of a sudden I have to care that you're a religious zealot, and
But that's
this was part of
crazy.
your mission, and like that is any kind of reason.
Well, my brothers, I have 3 brothers and they were in the military, and I can remember my brother telling me that, they were in a
But this
caravan.
guy wasn't in the military. This
No,
Robert Aaron Long.
but they have the military mind. The white
Yeah.
supremacy is taught to you in the military. Anytime you're taught to just be numb and dehumanize people and kill people that you don't even know. Come on now. I mean, is that not white supremacy? He would tell me, he would be like, they was in a caravan, and they was told not to stop, and it was kids that was running out, trying to get bottles of water that the soldiers were throwing out for the kids to get, but they were running over the kids. Now, how are your mind processing that? How are you processing doing all of that? They told you not to
Mm,
stop. You have to follow orders. All of that. That's the same kind
mm,
of a manipulation. The same kind of, let me tell you what to do, and you got to do it, and your feelings don't count. So they control people and make them do what they want them to do. That's just like right now. They have convinced this man that he can do what he wants to do, which was go kill these people and get away with it. He's going to do it because we have a system that allows him to. He was
mm.
apprehended without any,
Right.
what,
He,
that part. Jeremy
Yeah.
yeah,
Christian
he
was
posed
too,
for
holding a
photos
knife.
Right.
and his
That
sangria. He had a fucking
Sangria.
bottle of. He had sangria in
that
that paper bag. Remember that video of him outside of that fucking whatever
sure
bus
did.
stop or in that alley when they caught him? He was finishing his sangria. There's
Mm-hmm.
video. There's like a live
Yeah.
streamer or someone that was there that followed the cops or something. And there's footage that's not like police
Holding a
camera footage, but
knife.
Yeah.
he's holding a knife and a bottle of sangria, just like raw, like enjoying his last few sips or whatever, and I think of Quanis, I think of Quanis Hayes. I think of Patrick Simmons. Patrick Simmons was
Right.
running away. Fucking Kevin Peterson was sounds
So
like
quick to
running away.
murder somebody, but like if it's a white
every
dude,
black
yeah.
every black woman and every black man and child has died under this
In that
police.
situation. Hmm.
And here we go
Yeah.
with white people always getting obtained when nothing happened.
Yeah.
Then they had a nerve to put a
Yeah.
bulletproof vest on them.
Yeah, he looked
Like,
real
are
Right.
you
cozy. It looked
kidding
like one of
me?
those thunder vests you put on a dog when they're scared of
Thank you.
fireworks.
I
Like,
realized I said
how
same situation, and it's not, because the black people that were murdered weren't murderers. So when I say the same situation,
Yeah.
it's not even the same situation. They're
Yeah,
trying to
exactly.
apprehend. So when they're trying to apprehend a white serial killer, somehow they're fine with the sangria, their knife, going to Wendy's, like that one kid got to go to, or Burger
that
King or whatever the fuck they took him.
Dylan Roof,
And,
yeah.
and
water?
then,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So like, anyways, I have to
Yeah.
correct myself. It's not the same situation. It's tenfold,
Yeah.
because there's innocent black people that may or may not have broken a law, and they haven't even been tipped or cited yet, and they're assassinated. Like, I don't understand how people can sit back and just make excuse after excuse of why police officers are scared for their lives when it's a black kid but not when it's a white serial killer. Like I'm
Right.
so there's certain things that I'm just so fed up with, and that's one of them, is
Because
that narrative.
we're always looked at as a threat. We're
Yeah.
always looked
Mm-hmm.
at as a threat so
So
that they
even
can
this
have the
ZZ Top,
narrative.
crazy ass, 3 first name serial killer looks threatening as hell, is not, he's seen as a little kid, treated with kid gloves, all the empathy in the world. Oh, he had a bad day.
What kind of shit is that? He had a bad day?
Oh, he was trying to wipe out houses of ill repute.
What kind of
Like, what
shit
the
is
fuck is that?
that?
How dare you put that in my mind?
Right, but that's the narratives that I always try to put out there, that negative shit.
Yeah.
They always try to put out there that, oh my God, it's a reason for him to feel like that. But
Yeah.
it's not a reason for us to protest and feel like that when y'all kill
Right.
us in the streets,
Right.
in our
No empathy there.
beds.
No empathy for the
None.
people that have empathy.
No,
Where
no,
people have been
absolutely
murdered.
not. Because that's that white supremacy thinking. Let's forgive. Let's be so forgiving for the white man because he's
Yeah.
under so much pressure. He's such and this and this and this and this, but yet black people are up under pressure
Literally, no
for
one wants
real.
to fuck him. Like, that was the situation. This
That part, that he didn't
incel.
get what he wanted. He could not get what he wanted. He wanted
Right.
sex. He could not get it, so he couldn't rape. So he killed.
Lie. He said he was a sex addict.
Mm.
Lies.
Mm.
Lies. Wow. Yeah. Oh, it couldn't be a hate crime because he was gonna go,
Well,
They're gonna say
rampage.
sex addict. Why do you?
they're gonna say it's not racist because he was a sex addict. Like, you've got to be kidding me.
That is the definition of misogyny.
Of course,
There it is, right there. It's like victim
but
blaming on
misogyny.
top of misogyny, on top of racism, on top of white supremacy. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, I'm a little bit mind blown. And then it just makes me
Yeah.
think of just, all the things we were talking about, how I don't know, I'm gonna go back and look at our text because I was like, oh, I'll say all those things. But ugh,
Yeah.
I cannot.
Yeah. I did really think of Jeremy Christian when this happened, though.
I was thinking of how, like, so in the same way you've got
On
media
top
and white people
of
being like a sympathizer to this guy. So we've got the sympathizers to the Asian serial killers. And then it just reminds me of how, even like with when Aaron J. Danielson died, he was supposed to be looked at as some martyr, the guy that Michael killed at the Black Lives Matter protest in Portland. So a right-winged infiltrator was downtown, and his friend Chandler Pappas was talking shit. We talked about it a little bit, kind of briefly, and on a different episode. But Aaron J. Danielson has been quoted defending Jeremy Christian, saying that Jeremy Christian was self-defense. So we've got these cis white men that are either conservative or not, either Proud Boys or not, either Patriot Prayer or not, but they have this mentality, right? The cis white male mentality of excuse making for when white men are violent.
Right.
When white men are violent, we have all the excuses, bam, 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 bam. But then if something violent happens to them, then Jay gets murdered. Now Jay's a martyr, and whoever killed him, that couldn't have been self-defense, right? So I just think that the hypocrisy is what pisses me off the most. And it's just and it goes back to how in these circles, misogyny and women abusers and domestic violence and child abusers are allowed in these circles. It just came out this week that Chris McCauley has domestic violence charges going back to 2006, where he potentially held a gun to his own toddler child's head. Not someone else's kid. I guess he beat his girlfriend's or his ex-wife's daughter as well, but his own kid's head he held a gun to. He is violent. All of his crimes, when you look him up in Truth Finder, is violent question, violent, violent, violent. And this guy was the guy in Salem on Labor Day that hit the guy in the head with a bat. And so it's it just, the multi-layeredness to me just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it
And
brings
just to
me
like
back
reset the
to
room to like people who
Mhm.
don't know who you're talking about, these are white supremacists living and breathing and operating in Oregon and the Pacific Northwest under
exactly.
these different names, Patriot
And
Prayer, 3%,
mhm.
so
So use, I mean, and this one's a Proud Boy. So for example, this group is a well-known, like, national group, the Proud Boys. Chris McCauley is a Proud Boy, and he's part of the violent people that were attacking the Capitol on January 1st, January 6th, and December 21st, which is the day that Jeremy Roberts kicked the Capitol doors in. But just kind of going back to how I just noticed this pattern of violent white males getting excuses made for them. But when anyone's ever violent towards them, it's self-defense. And then it just keeps the white supremacy and keeps the misogyny going, because I just feel like when it really comes down to it, all the things we talk about, which is why we're here, keeps going back down to misogyny. Even when it's in our own circles and we've had issues with our own people, it comes down to
right.
misogyny, because there can still be people that are misogynist, obviously.
Yeah.
But right now that's the focus, and that's what we're kind of talking about. And that I just cannot handle how people aren't putting it together, that
Yeah.
in the same way people defend Jeremy Christian and say Jeremy Christian, it was self-defense, we can't have 1 second of grace for these Asian sex workers who were murdered because the
Right.
person who murdered him was addicted to sex. And let's list all the excuses for this guy, and
Right.
list all
Yeah.
the reasons why Jeremy Christian was allowed to spew hate time and time again, and why Joey Gibson gave him a platform, and that would be Patriot Prayer. And so how is it all stemming back to these white supremacist groups that allow these people in their circles and give them
Yeah.
platforms?
Right.
Because if they weren't allowed to be doing the things they were doing, Jeremy Christian, the day on 82nd, maybe a month before the murders, or a couple weeks before the murders, when there was him in the American flag capes, and he said the N-word on a live stream on Facebook the day before, he was threatening to come out and demask all the anti-fascists, because obviously before COVID. And so he's like, if you have a mask on, I'm coming and I'm taking it off. Like, these were the threats Jeremy Christian was making to go to Joey Gibson's events and to do these things. He was given a platform. Then he attacks Demetria, and then the next day he fucking murders people. And I just cannot. Again, I'm gonna keep saying it. I'm so frustrated at this point. I'm grieving, and I'm not completely fully thought processing. But I'm angry. I'm so angry that we're still in a place where we've done this for a year now. Like, Breonna Taylor's was murdered over a year ago. We didn't even find out about Breonna Taylor's murder until way after, because that's how fucked up the system is.
Mhm.
Until I feel like I didn't find out about Breonna until after George Floyd was murdered. And then Ahmaud Arbery, he's allowed to get chased down by those people, and is that a hate crime? Have we decided if that's a hate crime or not? I don't think so. Anyway, moving on, but
Yeah.
I can't.
Right. Yeah.
It's
It's horrendous and disgusting.
it's even because I think you remember with the SB 577 with the hate
Mhm.
crime law, they didn't even have a hate crime law here until
Mhm.
we had to testify, and we had to push
Mhm.
for them to even have a hate crime,
Right.
because it was only
Yeah.
an intimidation.
Right.
They still would have let it go with intimidation, and with
Yeah.
intimidation that was only in groups like skinheads, and the
Yeah.
law came out like in the 80s, and
Yeah.
so
88.
they
Yeah.
just passed it. And then now I just
Yeah.
found out that they tried to, and I tell you, language, they always try to swap languages. It was supposed to be a hate crime. Now they trying to tear it down to a bias crime, and that's two different things. So that, because a hate crime requires federal charges,
Mm.
you see, but
Yeah.
when it's a bias crime, it's only a misdemeanor. You see what I'm
So I
saying? And
wonder,
so
thinking
Yeah.
about
those
Kyle
are the
Brewster.
things that,
So
this is what I'm talking about. When you sit up here and you try to change these words
Right.
to let to down what is actually happening. These are
Yeah.
hate crimes, not bias crimes. These are hate crimes. So that
Right.
gives them the right to play language with you and be like, oh my God, there wasn't hate. It was because, like we're talking about, he was so addicted to this, so it couldn't have been hate. Yes, it was hate. Period.
Yeah. And with
Period.
Kyle Brewster, Mulugeta Sarraz, murder by 3 neo-Nazis, that first hate crime light law had just been passed when that murder happened. So there had to be a group of 3 or more proven white supremacists involved, actively involved in a murder. And so that is why Larnell Bruce's murder wasn't even charged with a hate crime, and then it was enhanced to a kind of misdemeanor crime, not even a felony. Right.
Right.
So we really have to keep on top of this, including remembering what the name of the fucking bill is. But, it's the new hate crime enhancement laws in Oregon that make it so it should be, if one person commits a hate crime, they are charged with a hate crime. There doesn't have to be like a whole group gang of white supremacists involved in what it is. And that's what happened in a different state in Georgia. And I'm just assuming their hate crime laws are trash. I really didn't mean to research that before the show, but I didn't. But let's say that crime had happened in Oregon before the latest hate crime bill was passed, which you're telling me, Demetria, I need to go make sure it actually did pass and that, we're holding to that language in the court of law.
It's
This guy wouldn't be
2019. Yes.
right. And it sounds like they're even, Biden, like, I'm not going to say this is a hate crime until I get all the facts. They're like, what more do you need to know? Oh, he was going to go shoot out the porn industry in Florida. Well, he didn't get there yet. He only got to the Asian parlors.
So you need him to be on recording to say that I did this out of hate.
Well,
and see, that's what I'm talking about.
That if he has any kind of lawyer, that will be, well, I mean, we'll find out soon if he had any kind of affiliation with white supremacist groups, right?
Even if he did, they're still going to.
Right. That's the thing. It's like, even if they don't, then they still need to be charged with a hate crime. The reason why they couldn't create a kind of nexus with Russell Courtier and his girlfriend, Colleen Hunt, who helped murder Larnell in her Jeep, is they couldn't find any evidence of her being part of a white supremacist gang. With him, he'd been in prison since he was 18. So there was lots of documentation of him being with European kindred for years.
But see, that's just another ploy. So that's what I'm talking about. It's just a ploy. Look at the language. Look at how they just flip that for their own benefit.
It's a misdemeanor. Yeah.
They're just saying,
he's in jail for a misdemeanor? Russell's in jail for a misdemeanor?
No, he's in prison for murder too, and I guess he'll get 30 years. Colleen Hunt won't even get 8. Right.
Wow. And she's the one that said, "Get him, baby."
Yeah, and it's her Jeep, and they all knew each other, which never even came out in court, But that also doesn't mean that it isn't a hate crime because the person too, right?
Well, and the fact he walked away. I think, for me personally, I think the fact that there was an altercation and Larnell chose to walk away, and they went after him, and she was overheard saying, "Get him, baby," and it's on camera. That again, that's so fucked that we have to prove that have white supremacy ties. The proof is that white people targeted a person of color, and it doesn't matter if they were murdered or not. If you think of what, even if small, in Salem, how Eric Olkers tagged that epilogue, that Black-owned business, and spray painted the front. He only got vandalism for that. He got, vandalism 2 or some little tiny itty charge for that because they couldn't prove he was targeting a Black-owned business, even though he spray painted over Black Lives Matter.
And how many Black-owned businesses are there in Salem? How many Black-owned businesses are there in Salem?
And this one's a prominent Black Lives Matter activist. John, the owner of Epilogue, is a prominent Black Lives Matter activist, and Eric was stalking him up and down the street a couple days before this happened. We have video of Eric stalking owner, following up and down the sidewalk. Then he comes back on security footage later, putting a Patriot Front propaganda. So again, a white gang propaganda sticker up, and then comes and spray paints the window, and that can't be a hate crime. That's just vandalism.
Right. That's a problem right there.
And like, I think if you
right.
start there and then it goes up, then you see how people who murder Asian sex workers, it's also not a hate crime, or
Right,
how Jeremy
exactly.
Christian could barely prove that was a hate crime because he's mentally unstable, because he's a provocateur, it could be a hate crime. He made his fucking life to be a hate crime. Like, that's his life is a hate crime. That's what he is. Like,
yeah, I mean, he did
anyway.
shoot a Vietnamese. Oh no, he was robbing a Vietnamese corner store, and the cop shot him in the
corner
head
store
and caused all
and
these.
blamed him. He blamed it. But he blamed it. That's what was in court. Came out in court is that he blamed the Vietnamese store owner and told him he should have had better security. That's why he robbed him.
Mm-hmm. Or
right,
during
and
the
this
trial,
is exactly what Aubrey is saying. There's always an excuse, and then we're always forced to sit and listen to it rationally delivered to us on the news.
We're supposed to sit
like
there.
It holds.
We're supposed to sit there during trial. We're outside, right? We're doing court support. It's COVID, so we're not allowed to go in during the sentencing. And he's been at Justice Center, so he hears us protesting all fucking summer.
You mean
or all
Jeremy
June or
Christian?
whatever. Yeah, Jeremy Christian. So Jeremy Christian. So Dimitri is in doing the sentencing. She's in there with Teresa. We're all outside, and we're watching it on a live stream. And Jeremy Christian says, "I should have killed you when I had the chance, bitch. And you're not my mayor," to Teresa, and points at Teresa, and it says, "You're in my fucking city. You're not my mayor," and told Dimitri he should have killed her when he had a chance. And you're still going to say that that's not a hate-related crime?
Right.
Like,
in fact,
put a muzzle
the judge,
in that motherfucker.
Right.
Put a
in
muzzle in that motherfucker and make him face
that.
people.
Well,
and then they let him go hide in a room. And they put him in a wheelchair. All of that shit. What the fuck? What the fuck? Put a muzzle on that motherfucker and make him face us. Fuck that shit. For Micah to not be able to look him in the eye that fucking next day. For Micah to not be able, Micah Fletcher, the one that survived. For him to not be able to look at me in the eye because he's so much of a fucking coward that we're still protecting a white supremacist mass murderer, serial killer, what the fuck ever. For Micah to not be able to look him in the eye because he was threatening people or whatever. I just can't. Like, we still were protecting him. We were still protecting him even then. Even then, and even now, just like they're protecting this murderer in Atlanta from the sex workers, and just like they in a way are protecting Russell's girlfriend, whatever her name is, them baby lady. Like, it's
they're gonna keep doing it. This is how the system works. This is why white men do what they do. It's because they have protection. Their
get rewarded,
system works for and they get their little brownie points in jail, serve half of the time, and then get out.
And now they're grifters, right? So now they do a Give and Go Christian. Somehow they get a Christian fundraiser website to raise the money. So then they get rich off of it. So now white supremacists are getting rich off of their hate crimes.
Like that Kenosha murderer, that 17.
Oh yeah, Kyle. Mm-hmm.
Kyle.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's why they hiding him.
And the Proud Boys have those shirts now that say like they have like those jerseys that say Kyle on them, and it's like in Proud Boy colors, and they have their emblem on the front, and then on the arm it says Kyle, and on the arm it says J.
That's
like,
disgusting.
Are you serious? It's fucking pathetic. Travis Taylor, that's who wears the one that maced us that one day outside of that parking garage. He fucking wears that J, like a couple of them wear these like J Kyle jerseys, like because Jay's the martyr and Kyle's the defense guy.
And if Kyle had been there that day at the parking structure in Portland, Jay wouldn't have been murdered because they would have had their white supremacist army taking people out.
Right.
I don't know.
I think
all these things I have to care about. I don't. I mean,
they were drunk. I'm pretty sure what happened was Chandler was out attacking people. Chandler has an AR. Chandler Pappas has that AR he carries around. He had it in Vancouver, which he wasn't allowed to have. He just got arrested in Arizona on a fugitive for justice warrant and posted bail because he has a Give, Send, Go fundraiser, and his parents are, he's a white rich kid from Milwaukee or whatever the fuck.
Really?
And and so he's already in
Arizona. I don't know why
he was given permission. So I can't remember where we were at, but so they've all been
they're rewarded for violating people who aren't white men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, that's
yeah,
what I was saying. And so
constant.
yeah, Chandler was out fighting. And Jay
They're
was like his
terrorists.
bodyguard. So like
Yeah.
Jay's like trying to like defend Chandler, and Chandler's drunk, wasted, out there trying to start shit. And that's why it was like off to the side. So Jay got killed on 3rd and Alder, which is like what, 5-6 blocks almost away from the Justice Center. So
Yeah.
yep, 6.
they were leaving and they kind of got caught off guard a little bit, and there was an altercation, and Jay gets out his bear mace and goes to bear mace Michael, and Michael thinks it's a gun, and Michael gets out his gun and shoots once, and the bullet hits the bear mace can, and the bear mace can kind of explodes, and then Michael shoots one more time, and that's what killed Jay. But it was Chandler's actions all night long that created that altercation, and Chandler was the one with the AR. So really, Chandler, you're a fucking coward, because at least, you know, I don't know, I'm not gonna say it, but Kyle at least shot his fucking gun. Like, fuck you, Chandler, you just got your friend killed. Like,
Right.
But they know
And
that's
the
what they
papas.
do. That's what they do. They don't give a fuck. And then they didn't want the medic to even help him.
Yes,
She trying to help
yes.
him, and it's just like, wow,
Get
you
the
don't
fuck off
even
him.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's just like, wow, y'all said it like it was a setup, like y'all wanted him out, or y'all, whatever the case may have been, they got their outcome where they wanted to have their outcome,
Well, yeah,
and
now there's a
everything
martyr type of
happened.
figure.
Exactly. I mean, and like we just, and you know, just to put out there, I don't want people to get shot and die. Like, my job, I feel like as an activist, is to try to prevent people from getting shot. But I also believe in the right to defend yourself, and I'm so glad and I'm so happy to see people of color and people on our side that are out there with their open carry rights, and exercising their open carry rights,
Yeah, because look how
and that's
hard.
fucking why, because look, you know.
Look how hard it was, and what they said to the Black Panthers immediately when they started carrying guns. That's when they came out with all these laws. I mean, we can protect ourselves, and now we know that we're Malcolm X 2021. We're going to protect our family and ourselves, and we are going for that. If we can carry, we're going to do it, and we're not afraid to do it. And that's the difference, is that we're not afraid to protect ourselves and the people we love, and we're gonna go hard. And that's what they don't expect. They expect us to be scared, but we're not scared. We live Black and women 365 24/7. We carry mace, we carry
That's what
everything
I
we
don't
need in our
understand.
purse.
Do these
Like, I
people
don't
not
know.
understand what Black women and people of color have to deal with day in and day out? Like, you guys live that all day, every day, 24/7. They might go out one time to one action, in the same way where I'll put myself out there and I'll go to actions. But when I leave that action, I know I'm going back home to my white privileged life. And people of
Right.
color and poor people and people of color, that's their life. They live that life. People that have lived on the streets. That's why my best friends in the Met grew up on the streets, because those are the people I trust. They really get what it means to be out there and what the risk is, and kind of like they can kind of laugh off all of that kind of fake, like, broy, like, aggression and like just like toxic masculinity, because they're not gonna meet those people where they're at, and they're gonna wait but defend when defense is needed. To your point, like, we aren't just scared to defend ourselves, but
At
we're definitely
all.
not gonna go out there and necessarily be the aggressor or the agitator like they make it sound like we are, because
Right.
I just don't see that. I honestly don't see
But
that.
they
Like,
are. That's what they do.
every
Right.
fucking time. And you know
That's what
what?
they do.
Yep. And that's a lot of a lot that's being exposed right now, is that being on the defense is a lot different than every single time when those people come marching into town looking for violence and attack people and incite
Drunk.
violence. Drunk with guns, right? But inciting violence. Audra Price, she's not going to hurt anyone herself, but she's the violence inciter. She's going to bring her
Yeah.
Cops Northwest gang. She's going to bring Proud Boys. Proud Boys are going to show up. 3%ers are going to show up. John Thorne and his percenters, I guess they were just heard bragging about how they were the ones that got Gary Floyd down on the ground and were beating him outside of the Capitol. So apparently 3%ers and John Thorne have taken responsibility for Gary Floyd's gang assault. So it's like, and they brag about it. Like,
Yep.
that was a very small group, and that was a very small group of people that came from Portland to the Capitol to stand up for them. And people in Salem were really worried about people getting hurt, and were kind of on the outskirts waiting for anyone needed to have evac. And it was just the craziest, scariest fucking day, because here come these brave souls from Portland trying to say we're going to stand up to white supremacy, and they got gang assaulted, shot in the face with paintball guns. And that night, David Willis got arrested that day, the big guy that got like tackled in the mud or whatever. He got released like 6 hours later. Our people stay in jail all weekend. When Max got arrested in Vancouver, he had to spend Halloween and didn't get out till Monday or Tuesday for just staying in the street. And these people are committing crimes and getting released a couple hours later.
Like literally bear macing cops.
Chandler Pappas, who's just been allowed to move to Arizona. Yeah,
and moved to Arizona because his life was in what?
Yeah, and then that's when he got arrested. I guess he left a little too soon because he got arrested for being a fugitive of justice. But at the time I got his mugshot, he was already released and had posted bail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's still in Arizona, so whatever happened, I guess. Oh, I found out what it was. He had a silencer on. He got caught with a silencer. It was like a secret. I've never heard of a secret file or whatever, but apparently his charges were secret. And yeah, he got caught with a silencer December 26th. So that's 5 days after the 21st event when they were actually taking over the Capitol. So he's allowed to have a silencer. Wonderful. And moving.
Wonderful. Just great.
Move state to state grifting. It was, violent white supremacist grift. Yeah. Right.
Oh, they have a big fund.
Yeah. They don't have a problem organizing and getting their people the money right away. It's wild. That is wild.
Because they have money on deck just for that. They get good credit.
The Oregon Women for Trump. The Oregon Women for Trump, I think, have bailed out like 3 white supremacists. Like thousands of dollars, like $10,000, $7,000, $8,000. Jeremy had a bunch of money donated, and then I stole it, which I think is hilarious, but we'll get to that later. And then Megan had money. Megan Stevens had money for her bail. And Chandler had money for his bail. So,
man, we really got to get the PIs together and follow the money, because that is where you're going to find like links. And we talk about these links between the police and the white supremacists. And we know that they're real, but these are things that need to be verified and produced or whatever, broadcast. So people understand
I highly recommend the Concerned Citizen channel on YouTube. It's called Concerned Citizen, and it's out of Salem, I believe. And it's like a very deep kind of look into. They do like the Salem City Council meetings, the school board meetings. They do. They break down their live streams and like will pause it and type in text and to kind of explain the context of what's going on. So a lot of the information that I've gotten for State of Oregon or for other posts that I've made have been from Concerned Citizens' work, and they're just a genius. And again, they're kind of more like that PI type that look into things and they have access. They find those public records. So they'll like post a live stream and then post a public record and then tie it all together. And I would love for us to kind of continue to do that, like more of like a blog post that we can kind of take, okay, this was our podcast and our conversation, and maybe like summarize it up in an article, and then be like, these are the highlights of what we talked about. Here's the proof or the actual facts backing up what we were saying. Something like that. Or like IDing these people, like this is Chris and Ashley McCauley. This is who Chandler Pappas is. Jeremy Christian was the Max murderer. He's in prison. Joey Gibson, Patriot Prayer, kind of started the movement, but now they've taken a back seat and now they're more public speakers, and we have these kind of new versions and new groups of Proud Boys coming in.
Yeah,
new groups of Proud Boys.
Yeah, it's like they call
from all over the place.
Yeah,
from where?
Like so, they're recruiting. Definitely recruiting. I heard that they're recruiting in Sandy really bad right now. That Sandy's really bad, and that there's like some Klan members in the police department there in Sandy. But like there was a very small event outside of like the Kmart or whatever, the Kmart parking lot on 122nd in Sandy, and the intel was that it was like a new phase of Proud Boys, and then all the older Proud Boys like Joe Demers or whatever his name is got on there like, they're not Proud Boys, they're wannabes. but it's like kind of these like I don't know what the word is, but like, you know how gangs have their different sections. It's just like this new wave, and then they recruit and have another new wave. And then they, I guess, have to prove
outside
themselves
the
in the same way.
Kmart having their
Outside the
white
someone said
supremacist
it
jamboree.
someone that was like a mandatory work party. Like if you want to be a Proud Boy, you got to come to this event, and like they were selling merchandise
outside the Kmart in
outside of
Sandy.
Kmart on 122nd in Sandy.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
rains.
Sandy
And
Oregon
anytime
trip,
it rains,
so.
well, and this one was just in Northeast. So the funny part about that was because it was like, so there's some events in Sandy that won and flag waves, but the fact that this was on 122nd in Sandy, it got some of the actual local people to be like, what's going on here? And so it's been interesting. It's really interesting to see how Portland anti-fascists really don't want Proud Boys organizing in the Portland city limits. But once they're in Sandy or once they're in Salem, there's a little less support, and kind of that's been my goal, is like how to bridge the gap. I'm not asking for people to travel and put themselves in danger, but just because they've been pushed out of Portland and can't organize in Portland anymore because they do get chased out, maybe we could chase them out of the city that's only 20 minutes away. Maybe we can chase them out of the city that's only 35 minutes away, because they're just moving and going to other places. The Capitol has always been a place of attack. They're always going to go to the Capitol, but they're going to the Planned Parenthood in Salem. You know, they've been
what's
going.
That all about?
They went to the Planned Parenthood in Beaverton last Saturday. It's so in Salem specifically, there's a church called the Church at Planned Parenthood, and it's basically an anti-abortion church. And the very interesting kind of layer of it is it's the main minister is a Black man. So it's a very interesting way to navigate this. We're showing up against white supremacy and against misogyny, but it's a Black preacher who is against abortion. So that's a perfect example of we always have to fight misogyny first, even if it's a Black church coming and harassing Planned Parenthood patrons. We still have to show up as supporters of women. Women's rights are human rights. Trans rights are human rights. So just the same way, you know what I mean? So it sucks. And of course I can't, I want to yell and scream, and then I have to kind of pull myself back and be like, okay, how can we navigate this so we're not a bunch of white people yelling at a group of Black people that are.
But are the Black people
misinformed
and the white supremacists coming to, protest as Planned Parenthood, are they together?
Yeah. So navigating that has been really tricky, because we're like calling them Nazis, but then they're like, they're not Nazis because they're hanging out with us. And I don't want to say, well, I can't educate you on who the company you keep. And I'm not going to, as a white person, tell a Black person who they can and can't have at their church. But just so you know, most of the time they want to kill you. And fucking
so that you know that you're standing up for some people that want to fucking
intersection of Planned Parenthood.
Think of Quincy, right? Think of the Black conservative preacher. Like, he's the perfect example of, he's a fascist. He's a Black fascist, Black conservative preacher. His name's Quincy. And I'm not going to listen to fucking Quincy when he tells me to do something, because he's a fash. He's a fash. And he's also a misogynist who beat his wife and pulled her out of the van by her hair and drug her over his kids. So it's again, misogyny first. We have to fight misogyny still
somehow
first.
In a position of power.
Right. Still
unbelievable.
Karma came back to get him. Apparently he was jumping a car the night before last, and the jumper cables caught on fire, and he went to take the jumper cable off, and it came and hit him back in the face, and he's got like 3rd-degree burns all over his eyes. So hopefully he can't go to the next event and fucking harass LGBTQ youth in Sandy this weekend.
Right.
I think And I was like, maybe there is a God. Like, the Black conservative priest can't go harass gay kids this weekend because he got his shit fucked up.
Right.
Like
karma comes back, Quince.
Yeah, it really does. But so I think that's a good thing to think about, though, too, is like people of color can show up at Planned Parenthood and protest abortion, and we're going to still show up in support of those women, and we can do it with some bedside manner or whatever. But
that goes back to show
multi-layered.
what we was talking about just because someone is African American and a woman, like we were talking about Joanne Hardesty, about her using her, that she's an African American woman, so she's going to use that to her advantage, but she's white supremacist.
But not only is she a victim blamer, but she's also practices white supremacy. I totally am right there with
Yes.
you. Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Period. Or
Period.
I don't know if we've talked about Dre Miller, but Dre Miller is another example of a complete
Oh my God.
misogynist,
Oh my
and
God.
he's a Black Lives Matter activist. But just because someone can say that they're a Black Lives Matter activist doesn't mean that they're, an entrepreneur that is profit
But
based. And
that's what they're doing.
I'm not going to
They're
listen to him.
taking this entrepreneur. You're taking this movement, just like with Seneca. Seneca, and Jedi are all of the men that have been misogynistic to this whole movement. They've used it for their purpose, whatever purpose they have in their head. They've used it for their purpose. They're still doing it, and it's gross. And then they sit up here and be the same ones that sit up there and say respect Black women, and you're just like, but you don't respect Black women, but yet when it's convenient for you to say that, you say that, but you don't even do that. Your Dre mom is white. She's not Black. His dad is Black. He has no respect for Black women. Seneca, his baby moms is white. He does not respect Black women. Then he has the nerve to lie. They both lied and said that Dre said his dad was a Black Panther, and then Seneca said his mom was a Black Panther. I mean, all of this misogynistic listen to me type shit. Even Jedi, look, this is not a place for you to be trying to drop so you can drop your album. It's not a place for you to this is your hustle. Every time you looking around, y'all throwing y'all hustle. I mean, even with like Dre Miller, like I was telling y'all, I think I spoke to it once before about the fact that he's with the Rotary Club, who promotes Ted Wheeler, who promotes Joanne Hardesty, who promotes the police, and then now that Dre is on there, he's bringing Seneca, he bringing all his whole juice crew to be commissioned with the white people so that they can have their acceptance and okay. And he still be going to marches, and people are still like, Dre cool. How can you be cool working for Joanne Hardesty? Then he had the nerve to say that
blind. All Black people are a monolith people, and we have to listen to all.
Right.
But that's white supremacy too.
Right. And also that we're so willing to follow a man. I mean, most people aren't even aware of this, but especially if you're coming downtown for the Black Lives Matter movement, and there's young Black men speaking about young Black men being brutalized and murdered by the cops. Oh, I'll follow this person, with totally ignoring like vetted Black female activists. And this has been the issue since I even got activated.
Yeah.
The men always rush. The men always take it over. Really, it doesn't matter what race they are. I was just talking to my Asian activist homegirl. With all the Asian violence this whole year, it's brought a lot of cis male Asians to the activism space, just thinking that they're experts. It's like, where you been? I've been out here for 10 years. I've never seen you before, and you want to be in charge of this movement, and you think you're going to solve the problem by bringing more cops into the situation.
Jesus. And that's the thing that Dre is about, is it's like,
and it's more insidious because he pretends like he's totally not about that. So does Joanne. But at the end of the day, nothing she does is actually affecting.
My experience with Dre is I was traded with Saul Luna. Saul Luna was becoming almost like a fascist sympathizer on his live streams, and I confronted him and I said, you know what, dude, I'm sick of you profiting off of dead Black people. Like, even as a white lady, I said it to a Black man. I was fucking sick of it. It was at Kevin Pearson's vigil, and he gets in my face and he starts tweeting about white bitches saying this and that and the other. And I almost went home because they hurt my feelings. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just sick of it. They called me Antifa Karen all summer and tried to get me targeted by fascists. And Andrew Mercado was a part of it, who's an actual fascist live streamer. But it was Saul. Long story short, my friend and I are confronting Saul and talking to him, and Dre comes over and is like, what the fuck's going on? And at that point, Saul was fighting with my friend who happens to be a Black woman. So Saul's getting in my Black friend's face. So I'm like, no, you're not about to get in her face. Like, again, we're going to fight misogyny. So me and 2 other women are kind of going back and forth with Saul. And Dre comes in and is like, this isn't the place. Like, how dare you yell at a Black guy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Dre, you know me, because we had kind of tried to have like, let's talk through this. He was anti-write-in campaign and we talked through it, and he apologized for being anti-Teresa, and we smashed it. And I'm like, we've been through this before, Dre, please don't yell at me in public. Like, and he's like, what, bitch, and gets in my face and calls me bitch in my face, like super aggressive. And then the Seneca girl starts pushing me into the street. Is that his girlfriend's name? Starts pushing me into the street.
Seneca's another Black male activist.
Oh, okay,
so
not that person.
He's actually married. So Dre, that's his wife, right? Or maybe, I don't know.
There was another woman standing next to him, and she starts pushing me into the street where the fash are. So on one side it's the fash, then there's cars driving by, and then it's us at the vigil. And she's like she starts pushing me away from Dre, so I can't talk to Dre. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll leave him alone. Right, he's Black, he's right.
The mother of his children. Yeah,
another woman. It was a Black woman. It wasn't a white woman. It was a Black woman. So it was just another Juice member or something. Now that I think about
it. No, it's okay. Maybe
it was his wife.
It was his wife, right, Demetria? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she starts pushing me, and I'm like, and then I get a little emotional. Like, you can't push me into the street, please don't. And he's like, you're not going to make yourself a victim. And again, it's just like they were using that as a white person, you can't defend a Black woman. So shut the fuck up, and feeding me to the fucking fash, or feeding me to get ran over by a car. And when we talked about, and then I messaged Dre and I said, I'm sorry if you felt like I overstepped, but I'm always going to defend a Black woman, no matter if it's a Black man or a white man or whoever else is in her face. And he's like, well, that was really unlike me. I'm really sorry. And he apologized for getting in my face and calling me a bitch. And then that was in October. And then 3 or 4 more events happened where he got in a trans person's face and he was being transphobic, and then he yelled at someone else, and then something else happened. And then he's had issues with Demetria that I didn't even know about when we were putting all of this together. And then he gets fucking hired by Joanne. And it's just it's just a perfect, like, it's a great.
What's the name of his title with Joanne? I mean, not just
I don't even know.
You have to understand, these people won't know who Joanne is. She's a city commissioner. He's hired as the outreach liaison, to these legions of activists that he's being violent against in the street.
That he's already being violent against, and exactly. So I think I'm really.
But why would you? Why wouldn't you hire a Black woman?
Right. It's so
because she knows damn well.
There's only room for one Black woman,
Right, and no Black woman would ever work for Joanne Hardesty. That's what's so crazy. It's even before he got that position, one white lady had the nerve to get in touch with me and ask me about the position. I said, you don't even know who the fuck I am. You must know. I said, because for you to even come to me and ask me to work for Joanne Hardesty, I said, you need to check your repertoire about the people who you fucking work with, because I don't know. Hell no. And fuck you too, bitch, and bye.
Right. Well, and I know this.
How you?
Right.
Well, also hiring someone that has been so publicly offensive to vetted, strong Black female leaders like Teresa, and we all know the history anti-Teresa hatred,
right? That part.
And this reminds me of denial. This kind of to bring it back full circle. Like, while it's such a tragedy and it's so sad that these murders happened in Atlanta and to the Asian sex workers, I think it's
who knows? They weren't even who knows? The thing is,
you're right. They're not even sex workers.
Listen,
you're right.
The only places I've ever gotten massage really is from Asian people, Chinese bodywork. They've been around for thousands of years. They got that shit on lock.
It's called Chinese medicine. That's why it's called that.
Right. Exactly. That part.
But they put that narrative out there, though.
You're right. I keep saying sex workers because they work in a massage parlor, and I'm calling them fucking sex workers. Like, right there you go. Right there you go.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
how embedded
it's already like
it's already gotten.
It's already
Like, it
got
brings us
momentum
full
because
circle.
that's the first thing that people say. Oh, they're sick. Demeaning. That demeaning
Yeah, and
shit.
I have a white girlfriend that was jerking dudes off at one of these massage parlors like that do exist. Does that mean she deserves to get shot in the head? She
No.
deserves to get blown away because this incel had a bad day because nobody wants to fuck him?
Right.
How is that our problem?
How?
And how are you saying that their life is worth less if they were even potentially engaged in
That
sex
part.
work?
That
And
part.
somehow that means that it doesn't constitute a hate crime?
Mm.
And you are already feeding me a narrative that is probably completely false.
Completely false. This man went up in there and shot some shit up because he
Right.
wanted to, and
Oh, he
because
stalked them
that period.
beforehand. He
Right.
watched them beforehand. That's how
That part.
this individual is. But you know, he's
But they
having a
not gonna.
bad day.
But they not gonna present that which they need to be present. This man
It's coming
premeditated
out, right?
this murder, and that no, they're gonna put sex workers. No, he was having a bad day.
Right.
They're gonna try to push the narrative so they can, like I said, so they can dehumanize women, so they can put the narrative in favor of this white man so that he can have a less monster what he is.
Right.
Period.
Well,
Period. Monster.
yeah,
Period.
An evil
right.
monster that y'all have created and put in our society to deal with. And then y'all tell us we gonna lock him up and study him. We gonna study why he doing what he doing. Y'all created him. You know why he doing. So we're paying for him to be in jail for the rest of his life while y'all study why y'all fucked up and why he's what? Huh?
Right.
Shut up.
And
all this is our problem. Everything they created is our problem. Like I said earlier with Jeremy Christian, they create these monsters and put them in our community for us to deal with it. And you know, if I would have stabbed Jeremy Christian and killed him, I would still be under the jail for self-defense. I'm a woman and he's attacking me. And if I would have killed him, I would still be in jail right now for the rest of my life because the system isn't working for me. It's working for this white man that had a bad day, not for a black woman that was protecting herself from a white supremacist.
Yeah, you were the aggressor the day before. Like, no matter what, you go
Yes.
back and you look at that day. It doesn't matter what would have happened. My friend was had confronted Jeremy outside of Wendy's that one day, and he always says that he wishes, you know, he would have just done something that day to save those people's lives, that he would be in jail for the rest of his life and he would be the murderer. And it just sucks to think that there's like actually people in our community that think to themselves, like, I wish I could adopt him. I'd rather be in jail for the rest of my life
Than to sit
know
here. Yep, that he got
that
away because
Taliesin
Micah.
is dead and that Ricky Best is dead and that Micah's life will never be the same and that your life will never be the same and those two girls' lives will never be the same.
Never be the same.
And those two girls are the real victims of all of this, are the ones that he was attacking on the max that day. And there's your hate crime. Like, you don't have to say that it's his hate. You don't have to say it's the hate crime against Ricky or the hate crime against Taliesin. It's the hate crime against those two Black Muslim fucking youth, teenagers, babies.
Children.
Babies haven't graduated high school yet. They still haven't graduated high school. And guess how many fucking acceptance letters that girl got? So fuck you, Jeremy. She's going places.
Yeah, she is, and she's beautiful. Her mom, we all keep in touch.
I love that.
We've become family. We have to because that
no
was
one else
so
is good. Who else is going to be there for you guys?
Nobody.
No social worker came and said, let's get you guys together.
Nope.
You guys fucking did that on your own.
No, we had to.
Thank
because
God for
the
Teresa.
victims.
Thank God for your guys' hearts.
Yes, for the community, for everybody just standing strong with us, because it's gonna be the anniversary, 4-year anniversary on the 25th.
Yeah.
May 25th, March 25th. No, what month did it happen? May.
Yeah, May.
That's crazy. You know what? George Floyd died. Well, we've talked about this.
Yeah, we talked
We've
about
talked
it.
about
It's
this.
the
What the
3 years
fuck?
after the day that German Christian
So
attacked Demetria.
May 25th of this year is going to be the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd and the 4-year anniversary of the day that Jeremy attacked you. So we could really say that we've been fighting white supremacy currently since that day you had him on the max, and then going back and we could say since Larnell was murdered, and then going back and go and say, no, it was actually in 88. And then we can say, oh, it's actually never gone away. Like
that.
So
Yeah.
sorry.
That, and people just don't understand. This is a revolution, and they just think, oh, we finna do this and do that. Do you know how long it's been going on? These white people don't want this system to go down. That's why we're fighting so hard. They still want to be for their benefit. No, it's going to be for our benefit, and we are going to break this system down. We're not going to keep this going on.
Yeah, abolish
Yeah.
prisons and abolish Jeremy Christian.
That
Abolish
part.
prisons and abolish white supremacy. Abolish
And
ICE.
we can do that.
Mhm.
We can do that because it wasn't even, you didn't even, back in when Indians were living on this land, they didn't even have jails. For what? They all loved each other. The white people are who created all of the thieving, the stealing, the conniving, all of that.
There
That's
was
why they
enough
had to put all that
resources.
in play. Thank you. But now this is the same way white people are right till this day. That's why we got to break this system down. It's because this is taught to everyone, and it's up to us to know that it's taught in us to stop it and to do what's right, not sit here and take this abuse, this kind of abuse from abusers, and then give them an excuse why they're abusing us and to sit and take it. No, no, thank
or to feel
you.
like we're too
No,
radical.
Yeah.
We're breaking the
think
law
we're
by
the far
doing
left.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're breaking the law by exposing misogyny. We're breaking the law by exposing white supremacy. And when they expose themselves, and all we do is retweet
Sit
it.
back and
And
watch. Yeah,
we're
sit
the
back
bad
and
guys.
watch. Sit back and watch. That's all we can do is sit back and watch because they make their own mistakes. Look at them. And then when they get caught, they such pussies that well, dicks that they cry. You
Yeah.
but you got caught. You mad. You want to get shipped off to a prison where they serve you organic food. You want to get special privileges.
Oh yeah, that one guy that was getting special food. What was that one guy that he wasn't eating and they had to give him
the
organic
January
shit or
6th,
whatever?
they
Oh
call
yeah,
the white
the
supremacist
Viking,
shaman. What they
Oh
call
my
him?
blue face guy.
Yes. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my
He
god,
literally
that
gets
guy.
sick. My
Whoa,
mom had
whoa,
to
The
call
sun
and
shaman.
tell me. My mom called
I
we
and
can laugh
told the
about it. Like
dude.
at least
only
we can laugh about it, but like what the fuck? We have people in jail. Think about we have people in our prison system that not only dying of COVID, but
Muslim.
we have people that are on like liquid diets for one reason or another. They can't get their food. How come people that aren't
And
allowed
then
to
you
eat
can
solids, they can't get their food in jail, but this motherfucker got his organic freshies delivered with his horns?
right. You
Like
have people that have religious restrictions of what they can and can't eat, and they just say, eat what you want, eat what we give you. That kind of shit. But you ship him out to a specific place where they serve him organic food so he won't throw up.
Well, look at Mamiya.
Mm.
You know, in Philadelphia, they gave him hepatitis C, and now they gave him COVID.
Right.
It's sad. He's gonna die in prison.
And die in prison.
Mm.
And he could be
All
out
for
right now.
exposing white supremacy. I mean,
Yes.
everything really just what you're saying, Aubrey. It is so sad that these murders happened, and it's horrendous and disgusting. But it does expose,
the white
that
supremacy.
a white supremacy in everything, and the misogyny in everything. And I think that's why it's so infuriating as women too. Like how you were recalling, like every time you've been catcalled, just that kind of relationship that we have with our society, that everybody's about ready to attack you or hurt you in some way, and then it can be turned on you
It's your fault.
It's your
That you
fault
asked for it.
because
Or,
he
you
was
know, I
thinking
saw
about you
something,
in a sexual way.
right? I
What the
saw
fuck
something
is
the other day
that?
that was like, I saw this meme and it was like very simple, but it was like, my neighbor was giving me shit for taking the stairs when I live on the 3rd floor. So obviously this woman's like in New York or in a sky rise, right? And her neighbor's giving her shit for taking the elevator instead of taking the stairs. And she's like, there's no cameras in the stairwells. And he never even thought about it. He never thought about how she didn't want to be alone in her building in the stairwell and something could happen to her, that she wanted to be in the elevator where a security camera was.
Yeah.
And like,
And
and
for us,
I was
it's like,
like,
yeah.
shit, for right? And like, for
It-
to think that like people, men don't even think about that. They don't even think. They don't even have that thought. And
Right.
I appreciate that in some
one
sense, like, because
one
obviously
thing.
that guy might not ever attack anybody. But the idea that, you know, it's just that we have this, we live our
One
whole
thing
lives
is.
as women.
Mm,
Go ahead.
mm. One thing was crazy was that a man asked another man, "What do you think about when you go out? You know, when you get ready to go out, what do you do? What do you think about?" And he's like, "I'm gonna go out hang out with my buddies. I make sure I got my phone. I make sure, you know, I got my keys. I know where I'm meeting them at, blah, blah, blah." Then he asked a woman, he said, "What do you do when you get ready to go out?" She said, "I have to make sure I'm dressed right so I won't be so provocative for a man to approach me. I have to make sure I have my mace. I have to make sure I have my taser. I have to make sure my husband and my kids know I'm going to be. I have to make sure I do not park somewhere where it's not lit up. I have to make sure that I do come home at a certain time so I won't put myself in danger of somebody at night doing something to me." I mean, all these things
Right.
Mm-hmm.
we have to worry about going out because men have no self-control.
Yeah.
Right.
Men have no
And
self.
that,
that still is our
yet
responsibility. We have
that
no
Right.
is, and
control
then
and
we
it's still
still
our
get blamed
responsibility.
and
Right.
still get blamed if
Right.
if I'm dressed provocatively, if I'm drunk, if I'm whatever it is, I deserve what I got from a man and let me deal with it. And then
Because
when
you're
you
a
go
woman
and
out.
that's right.
Mm-hmm. Or even I saw something
Period.
too, like, if a guy asks you 20 times to have sex and you end up saying yes on the 18th or 19th time, like, is that consent even anymore? You know? And then, like, I just thought about that too. I'm like, how many times have I been, like, nicely pressured in the past, you know, to just do things I wasn't ready for or
Yep.
whatever? And, like, no,
Everything
when
in
someone
our
asks you to
life,
do
almost
something 20
everything
times,
in our life.
when someone asks you to do something 20 times and you give in on the 18th, 19th time, that's, again, it's kind of like, well, I asked it, you know, I asked for it or whatever. And it's like, no. And that I'm programmed to not even think about that until I read about it in my 30s, and to think about how starting at 14 or whatever, that it was constantly trying to slow whatever boyfriend down or whatever. And then via V, if I was ever excited, how dare me want more than, you know what I mean? Like, if I were
He
to be
wants.
the more provocative one, then that's
Right.
also like slutty or scandalous or whatever. So there was
Yep.
never, you know, it's, you're never good enough, whether you're too slutty or too prude or whatever. But just, I never unpacked any of that stuff and the trauma from being in my 20s and being a teenager, and
Yep.
wanting to I'm a people pleaser, and then realizing as a people pleaser how that affects you when you get into relationships, and it's not the same.
Yep.
And to
Right.
really start advocating for yourself. And my
Right.
ex even giving me shit about, oh, are you not attracted to me anymore? Like, that is misogyny. Fuck all that. Like,
Yep.
none of it's
Yep.
okay. And it starts on those little tiny micro levels, and it starts in your personal
It
relationships.
does.
And then you realize, I'm calling women sex workers and I don't even know that they're sex workers, just because that was the narrative that I was
Exactly.
fed.
I mean, right. And it's like the shit that these women have to put up with, like, even, right, just dealing with men,
It's like a
period, in
massage.
any kind of massage
Yeah.
setting, period. Like the
Yeah. So
stories
these,
that they would
these
tell.
licensed
Right.
masseurs, I forget how to say it, massage technician, right? These professional massage technicians. I'm calling sex workers because that's the
Right.
fucking narrative I was given. Like,
Right.
God damn it.
Right.
But, you know, I'm glad we're here talking about it, and I can, you know, even fix my own language and realize where I need to educate myself and, you know,
Well,
look
now
at
that's in
how
my head
crime,
too, and we're looking at
hate
these
crimes.
storefronts, and like you know, I do a lot of work with nail salons too, so I can't help but kind of make a parallel in my mind. We just have all these assumptions about these Asian businesses and stuff, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much more I want to get into it, but
Yeah,
you
well,
know,
I mean, we should delve in more.
right, right. That sex work is the industry that we have to take up in order to survive.
Oh, but see, this is okay. See, even with that, and when we was talking about earlier, men set the tone where we need them. How do they do that? They don't pay us what we're supposed to be paid, so we have to supplement our income. So when you start supplementing your income, what's the first thing that a woman can supplement her income doing? There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, sex worker. Okay, but then you sex working and you trying to supplement your income. They know that. They know that we don't make enough. So what they do things to you that you don't want. So you got to suck it up and take what they give you because you know that you need this $300, $400, $500.
Right.
And they know that too.
Yeah.
So they take advantage of all of that, do what they want to do. And even when they get caught or set you up to get caught, you get persecuted. They don't.
Right. Right.
It's all about what they're planning to
Money.
do, and it's about money,
The
and they set
capitalism,
it up like that.
Yeah.
Right, the
capitalism,
power.
misogyny.
Yeah.
If we if we made enough money to survive, what would we need men for?
Well, I mean, I think that's part of the problem. We like don't actually need them, and they know that.
They're
I mean,
starting to, they're starting to
feminism
realize.
has not been around that long. I mean, maybe there's some
hasn't.
other epoch where, like, you know, women ran the world, but that's not the world that we live in. We just started working,
It's not.
and we already
They
and they're already scared. We're already their boss, so that's all.
In the
excuses.
1950s was when white women could even vote or even have a bank account. They had to have their husband.
I guess
Like they
1920,
That's so true.
right?
You know, and even like think about this. So with my ex, we shared a house together. We were an unmarried couple. We shared a home. I was my daughter's primary caregiver.
Shit.
But because he was he had to be head of household because he made more. So because he made more money and he had to claim head of household, so it's tax fraud if I were to claim our daughter, even though I take care of her and my parents are mainly the providers. Because we shared a roof together and he made more, he got to claim
more
her.
than 6 months. Yep.
And so it's like it's just
a
deep root. The men make more generally because their positions of the careers they
head
choose
of the
make more.
household, right?
Yep,
But
there
it's
you go. And
all
you know,
all of that is put up there like that because you think about a head of household that there's systemic white supremacist shit. The head of household, the man is usually the head of the household, but we've known for years and years and years that it's the woman the head of the household. It's the man
women who
that provide the
runs
money
the
for the
house.
household.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
You only
next time we
provide the
talk, I want to
money.
study. We could look into the Zapatistas a little bit because that's the matriarchy, and you know we could get into like looking to other cultures where women are. You know, I mean, imagine if we had like a board of directors of women who decided, like even in our activist community. Imagine like Teresa, Demetria, Adele, some more, you know, maybe some more liberal ones, some more, you know, people from different maybe political spectrums, but there was like this group of women
like
that
moms,
could decide.
just not Deb, right?
Yeah,
like
right, and like
just right, because we have that vested interest in the world, our children, you know, the next generation, and we are that primary caregiver. Like we're just gonna do that. biologically I am
be
a
better.
carer. I don't know if it's all nature and nurture, but when I see a group of people, especially little people like children, like I automatically start caring for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes,
I don't know.
it's because as
It's
a
just it.
woman, we're nurturers. We're nurturers.
Mm-hmm.
And so we
Mhm.
always
You
are
gotta
going
keep
to
the
try
tribe
to
together.
nurture. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
but
and I
people
think too,
don't.
Yeah.
even when we have differences, like I think, you know, sometimes our egos get in the way, like any human, but like I think when it really comes down to it, like we actually don't let our emotions get in the way when we have a common goal. And I think that, you know, if
Mm-hmm.
in some way, like if, you know, in the way that our other, some of the nonprofits have come together, like Don't Shoot, Moms United for Black Lives,
Mm-hmm.
Direct Action Alliance, if we had, you know, like these are just nonprofits and groups that come together and have the same type of thinking. But could you imagine if we all decided as a leftist community that, you know, if a group of women decided that people were problematic, that they actually weren't allowed in our circles, and how much more work we could do
Yeah.
in that way?
Yes,
And
because
like, and then we
it
could kick
becomes
all
so
the
misogyny.
for-profit people out, like kick all the for-profit people out. Anyone that has an LLC, you're not allowed. Bam. Like, imagine how much that would weed out. But even then, we don't have like systems in place for that. And I just feel like, you know, like you said, as nurturers, like look at the Zapatistas, and kind of go back. And even speaking of indigenous people on this land, you know, the people in the
Yes.
mountains, they didn't have a word for war. There was no word for war before colonialism. You know, tribes all met together on the Columbia River, from all the way from Grand Ronde. They came up, they came from the east, and they all fished. They all fished on that, I'm going to butcher this, the Solelo Falls. And they all met there and they fished. And it was when the white people came and took that fishing place away from them,
Away.
and genocide, and then genocide came. But before that, there was no word for war, you know. So I'd love to, like, for us to like stop and think for 1 second what this land was like before there was a word for war, and when the resources, there are resources enough for everybody, and when people realize that, how there was peace. And I just, it sucks to imagine not being
That would
able
be a
to
beautiful
enjoy
thing.
the Pacific Northwest,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not, I'm not indigenous to this area. Like, it would be beautiful to think of what this land would look like if it were how it should be, how it was meant to be. And you know, even the idea of the way the border crossed Mexico, like the border crossed us, right? Like, this was all one land. Like, what the fuck, you know? Like, I just, when you really think about that, when you think about the border.
That's that
Exactly. We
colonizing
can
shit.
definitely go back before colonization. We're talking about Georgia. You know, fuck the South, man.
Mm.
Ugh.
Oh, all the
yeah.
South.
I mean, fuck everyone.
My phone is about
I know.
to
I
die.
love y'all. I'm about to pass out.
I know it's late there. I just thought about that, and I thought I don't know if I might have heard a child cry. Hold on. Speaking of moms.
Oh, actually, my child or your child?
I ain't
Mine. We're
okay.
good. We're
love
good.
you
I
guys.
love y'all.
Next time.
Okay. Well, you know,
Next time
Hey, thank you guys.
fuck white supremacy, fuck misogyny. They're one and the same. This was a hate crime. We can link them to all these other hate crimes that we've been talking about this past hour. They all have that in common: the white supremacy and the misogyny. Okay,
misogyny, white supremacy, and hate
fuck
crimes.
white supremacy.
Yeah, fuck it.
And hate crimes.
Love you guys.
All right, love you guys.
Love y'all.
Okay, bye.
Love you.
Okay, bye.